Okay, so today is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. Welcome to your daily news update on Blip Brief, small but almost everything updated daily. We've really cut through the noise here to bring you the most impactful stories from the last 24 hours, giving you a sharp, clear picture of what matters, in India and across the globe. We're talking market shifts, corporate shakeups, geopolitical maneuvers, and even a pretty mind-bending scientific discovery that could, well, maybe even redefine life itself.
Exactly. Yeah, think of this as your essential briefing,
Yeah.
designed to connect the dots on the numbers and the narrative shaping our world. Our mission really is to give you those insights,
Mhm.
the ones that turn information into, real understanding, helping you navigate today's complexities with a bit more clarity.
Okay, so let's dive straight in, starting with some really robust indicators from the Indian economy. August saw manufacturing activity surge. We're talking a 17.5-year high, hitting a significant 59.3 on the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI. That's a key barometer, right?
A phenomenal number, absolutely. And what's really illuminating here is how this momentum, you pair it with August's impressive GST collection, 1.86 lakh crore. That's up 6.5% from last year. It just underscores a potent economic pulse. And this isn't just, a blip. It's reinforced by India's better than expected Q1 GDP numbers. Points to real resilience, even with global headwinds.
Resilience, yeah. But it's not entirely clear skies, is it? The current account did slip back into deficit, 0.2% in Q1. That's a shift from the surplus we saw before. What does that actually mean for us?
Right. Well, a current account deficit, even a small one like 0.2%, it basically signals that India is importing slightly more goods and services than it's exporting, once you factor in all the financial flows, of course. Now, while it's manageable at this level, a widening deficit could put some downward pressure on the rupee, and it might indicate a growing reliance on foreign capital. So it's definitely something to keep a close watch on.
Okay, got it. And digging a bit deeper behind those headline figures, energy demand, it's certainly heating up. Literally, power demand jumped 4.3% year on year, reached about 150.5 billion units in August. That seems like a strong surge, even for this time of year.
It does. It really suggests vigorous industrial and commercial activity going on. But here's an interesting contrast. Demand for work under the government's Rural Employment Scheme, MGNRGS, it actually dropped by a quarter compared to last year.
Okay, and traditionally that's seen as a positive sign, right? People finding better work elsewhere.
Usually, yes.
Yes.
That's the standard interpretation, the sign of buoyant economic activity drawing people away.
But then we have this other data point. Formal job creation under EPFO, the Employees Provident Fund Organization. That actually fell for 2 straight years through FY25. So if MGNRGS demand is down, but formal job creation is also down or stagnant, what does that tell us? Is it a mismatch? Or maybe a shift to less stable kinds of work?
That's precisely the critical question here. It really hints at a significant structural challenge, potentially. Because while, yes, a decline in MGNRGS could imply a more vibrant rural economy, the stagnant EPFO data suggests these new opportunities might not be translating into formal, secure employment. We could be seeing a surge in the informal sector, maybe the gig economy. And that raises concerns about job quality, long-term security, rather than truly robust formal job growth. It sort of points to a missing middle in our job market, you could say.
Interesting. A missing middle. Okay, so from that broader economic picture, let's zoom in on the corporate world. Bit of a swift and rather dramatic boardroom change at Nestle. CEO Laurent Frex is out after a romantic relationship with a subordinate violated company rules. Philip Caratil steps in. That was fast.
Very fast. And it really underscores the increasing scrutiny on corporate governance these days. Highlights that internal codes of conduct are, well, paramount, especially for top leadership. It sends a very strong message, doesn't it? Ethical breaches have immediate serious consequences. And on the policy front, related perhaps to governance in the financial sector, the government's looking at special courts to fast-track bank fraud cases. That seems like a proactive step towards enhancing financial stability.
Yeah, speeding things up there seems crucial.
And also, a quick note for industry. The textile PLI scheme application window extended to September 30th, 2025. A bit more time there.
Good to know. Also, a key legal update regarding fuel. The Supreme Court dismissed a plea against the nationwide rollout of E20 petrol, that's fuel with 20% ethanol. But some analysts are waving a yellow flag. They're pointing to a potential increase in wheat prices. Why connect those two?
Well, the concern is pretty straightforward. The push for biofuels like E20, it could divert agricultural resources, specifically things like wheat, potentially towards ethanol production instead of food. So if more land and produce are used for fuel, it could tighten supply for food uses. And that naturally could drive up prices for consumers. It's an unintended consequence, perhaps.
Right, a potential trade-off.
And sticking with domestic policy changes, in Bengaluru, property registration fees have doubled, up to 2% now.
Doubled. How does that impact the housing market there? Does it just make homes more expensive up front?
Essentially, yes, it increases the upfront cost. By doubling the registration fees, the government is adding to the transaction cost. It seems like a deliberate move, really. It's anticipated to cool down what's been a very hot housing market. The idea, presumably, is to reduce speculative buying, make property less attractive for quick flips, which in theory could eventually help stabilize prices for genuine home buyers, even with that higher initial fee.
Okay, interesting lever to pull. So all these indicators, domestic, global, they inevitably ripple through the markets. Let's see how investors reacted yesterday. Both the Nifty 50 and BSE Sensex were in the green, up about 0.8% and 0.7% respectively. And auto stocks, wow, they were really cruising. Nifty Auto gained 2.8%, BSE Auto up 2.7%. Investors seem bullish on wheels.
Yeah, that rebound, it came after 3 days of losses, remember. And it was largely triggered by those strong Q1 GDP numbers we talked about earlier, gave sentiment a boost. But what's particularly striking, I think, is the role of local institutional investors, DIIs. They've poured over $59 billion into equities this year alone. That's huge. They're effectively cushioning the market, even as foreign funds keep selling off. FIIs withdrew $14 billion. It really shows the growing confidence and, frankly, the increasing clout of domestic capital in India.
A real shift in market dynamics then. And among the top performers yesterday, Bajaj Auto raced ahead by 3.9%, Mahindra up 3.6%, Tata Motors 3.2%, and Hero MotoCorp also reported an 8% year-on-year jump in August sales. So the auto sector really does seem to be in high gear.
Absolutely. That robust demand is a key indicator, as we said, reflects consumer confidence and economic activity. And for those of you eyeing new opportunities, the IPO market looks set for, well, some are calling it a buffet. Big names expected in the coming months. Tata Capital, LG, Oyo, and Grow, the fintech platform, just got SEBI's nod for a massive IPO. Could be $700 million to $1 billion, so that's going to be one of India's largest fintech listings if it goes through.
Big one to watch. And if you're tracking new listings right now today, OptiValue Tech Consulting and Goal Construction IPOs are opening, while Globtier Infotech and NIS Management are set to actually list today. So we'll be keeping a close eye on how they perform. Gives you a real-time pulse on investor appetite. Plus, a regulatory note. SEBI's introducing new intraday derivative position limits from October 1st, aimed at managing risk.
Right. Okay, shifting now to the global stage. We're seeing some really remarkable moves in precious metals. Gold prices, for instance, just hit a new record high. Surged past $3,500 an ounce.
Wow, $3,500.
Yeah, and this isn't just, a random spike. It's fueled by a mix of things. Hopes for a U.S. Fed rate cut, because inflation seems to be cooling a bit there, and a weaker dollar, which makes gold cheaper for buyers using other currencies. So, more appealing.
And gold's not alone in this rally, is it? Silver's moving too. Jumped 5% in just 2 days. Crossed $40 for the first time in 14 years. And in India, it hit a new all-time high, too. 1,023,500 for kilogram. That's a significant move.
It really is. And tells you quite a lot about the underlying market uncertainty out there. Investors are actively seeking safe havens. It reflects a kind of global caution, a desire to protect wealth and tangible assets amidst all the volatility.
Makes sense. Meanwhile, the Indian rupee, it fell again. New record low against the dollar, still pressured by those ongoing U.S. tariff worries, it seems.
Yeah, that pressure continues. And adding to the mix, oil prices are also up, over 1%, mainly due to the escalating Russia-Ukraine tensions, which are stoking supply concerns again. Another layer of geopolitical risk impacting markets.
And these economic currents, these risks, they lead us right into the geopolitical chessboard. President Trump recently imposed that 50% tariff on Indian goods, which is, well, notably steep. The steepest against any country, actually. Compare that to just 19% for Pakistan. He even claimed India offered zero tariffs, called the trade ties a one-sided disaster. Strong words.
Very strong rhetoric, yes. And it wasn't helped by comments from White House trade advisor Peter Navarro either, his remarks about Brahmins profiteering from Russian oil deals. Well, they certainly didn't help diffuse things. And just to be clear, we're relaying this from the source material, not endorsing the sentiment, but it's notable he explicitly invoked caste lines in that criticism. Shows how charged the rhetoric has become.
Yeah, quite charged.
Although, on a more optimistic note, veteran investor Scott Besson did state he believes 2 great countries will get this solved. Suggests some faith in the long-term relationship.
It's such a complex dynamic, isn't it? Because despite this trade rift, literally right now, India and the U.S. have just started their Yudhapi's military exercise in Alaska, focusing on high altitude and counter drone warfare. So defense cooperation seems fully intact.
Absolutely. And that really signals India's strategic autonomy, its
Hmm.
ability to navigate these complex international relationships, demonstrates it has options that's not solely reliant on Washington. And looking across Eurasia, Prime Minister Modi, President Putin, President Xi Jinping, they held an informal meeting at the SEO summit in Tianjin, a very visible display of, well, camaraderie.
Right. But even there, India maintained its stance, didn't it? Still opposed China's Belt and Road Initiative, underscores that independent foreign policy.
Exactly. And significantly, the SKO as a group notably condemned the Pahalgam terror attack. They supported India's stance against cross-border terrorism. That's important backing.
And thinking about broader alliances, Brazil's President Lula is calling a virtual BRICS meeting, specifically next week, to discuss Trump's trade policies and their global impact. So these aren't just isolated incidents, are they? They're all connected threads in this shifting global picture, constantly recalibrating.
Precisely. And on the humanitarian front, tragically, the crisis in Afghanistan continues. Over 800 dead, 2,500 injured in that recent earthquake. And rescue operations are incredibly difficult. Roads are impassable. India has swiftly assured aid, though, showing commitment to regional stability and assistance.
A terrible situation there.
And in Europe, a slightly concerning incident. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's plane, it was hit by GPS jamming over Bulgaria, essentially blocks satellite navigation signals, suspected to be a Russian attack, hints at ongoing sort of electronic warfare activities in that region.
Okay, so finally, let's pivot away from the earthly challenges and opportunities to a discovery that could, well, fundamentally redefine how we understand life itself, far beyond Earth. NASA has made a truly fascinating find on Saturn's largest moon, Titan.
Yes, this is really intriguing. New research suggests that in Titan's extremely cold lakes, lakes of methane and ethane, not water,
Right.
simple molecules could naturally arrange themselves into something called vesicles. They're essentially tiny, bottle-like structures.
Vesicles, tiny bubbles. So, if these simple molecules can spontaneously form these structures, how significant is that? Are we talking about, like, the very first, most primitive steps towards cells, towards life, even in that kind of extreme cold?
Absolutely. That's the implication. This isn't just fascinating. It fundamentally challenges our long-held view, our Earth-centric view,
Yep.
that liquid water is an absolute must for life to get started. If life's basic building blocks, these primitive cell structures, can self-assemble in frigid methane lakes, it means the traditional idea of a habitable zone might be far, far broader than we ever imagined. It dramatically expands our cosmic imagination. It potentially, doubles or triples the number of places, exoplanets, icy moons we should be seriously looking at for signs of life. It could potentially redefine the entire search paradigm for astrobiology. Raises big questions about how common life's basic chemistry might be.
That is definitely something to chew on, a truly mind-bending possibility.
Okay.
That's your quick and essential deep dive for today.
We certainly hope this briefing helps you navigate the day's complexities, hopefully with a bit greater clarity and maybe a deeper understanding of the forces shaping our world, both on Earth and perhaps beyond.
This is an AI-generated podcast commentary, and please re-verify the content before use.